Some of the best things happen when we experiment with sewing. Seeing an arrangement of stitches or materials used on one project might inspire one to put those stitches on another project. How about using modern fabrics and notions to simplify a challenging technique? I encourage you to do lots of experimenting with your sewing. We are going to do just that today. You are so welcome in my sewing room. I am so happy to have as my guest today my dear friend and business colleague Alicia Welcher. She is a Martha Pullen educator and she teaches at the School of Art Fashion, and she's also a Martha Pullen licensed teacher. Alicia, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Martha. So good to be here again. Today we're going to talk about chain stitch quilting. And so it's something we do with our serger that doesn't necessarily look like we do with our serger, and it's also a different way to use your machine other than for construction techniques. So what we're going to start with is this tote bag here. Now this tote bag, the main construction of it is very simple, but what we're going to talk about today is this piece of construction right here, which creates this quilting. And this is the quilting that is done on the chain stitch. Now a chain stitch on your serger is serged with only one needle, and so from one side it looks like a sewing machine stitch, but on the bottom there is a thread that wraps around the needle, and that is what creates this look of the chain stitch. We've added a little piece of trim here. It's got this cute little piece of gingham peeking up from the lining, and it's just a patch pocket that's on our tote bag. So to make this, what we're going to do, let me step back for a minute. What we're actually going to do first is talk about the chain stitch itself, because you can get a variety of different looks in your chain stitching just by varying your thread weights. Now, your weights of threads can vary anything, like here from a very light cord all the way into here where we're using a twisted rayon cord or even an untwisted rayon cord. And each of these threads gives us a totally different look. Now to start our pocket, what we do is we take a piece of linen blend here, and on the back of this piece is a fused piece of fusible fleece. Now the chain stitch, because like I told you earlier, the chain stitch, the pretty part is actually the part where the looper is looping around the needle thread. That means that we have to sew from the top side of this piece rather than from the bottom, because we want the nice part to be on the bottom. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this over to the serger here, and I'm going to show you how to do this. We have drawn a grid on this piece that's just going to give us a guideline of where to go since we're not looking at the right side of the machine. We're set up for a chain stitch with regular thread in our needle and with decorative thread in our looper. We're going to serge on this, following the line right under the needle. And as we come out the back, what you'll see is that on the back side of this stitch, it has created our nice little chain right through here. Now, if you have a machine that needs to have the thread under, or the fabric under the needle in order to make it stitches, then you are going to start and stop with a leader piece of fabric before you go. So you would start on the leader piece of fabric, serge onto the regular fabric, and then stop with another leader piece of fabric. Now, once we get that whole thing serged, it'll look like this. Now we're going to take that piece there. We're going to take our piece of trim, right side up, on top of that, matching one raw edge. Then we're going to take a piece of gingham that is a ½ inch longer, and we're going to match that all against the one edge that had the trim on it. We're then going to serge just that one edge. Now this one shows that piece serged. And what I want to show you here is, if we go to serge another side, with actually the bottom of this piece, our gingham has been cut longer. So we need to take that gingham and scooch it up so that all of the raw edges match at the bottom side. We're then going to serge that side, keeping those edges matched and leaving a hole in the center for turning. This one here has that hole that's in the center for turning. We're then going to take the bubble that was created there by having our gingham piece be bigger than the other pieces. We're going to take that piece and we're going to squish the bubble all the way up to the top of our piece. Then we're going to, that actually creates a pleat at the very top of this. That pleat is what is going to make our little gingham strip at the top of our piece. We're then going to serge the sides of this, starting at the bottom and moving to the top so that it maintains that pleat. If we started at the top and moved to the bottom, it would push the pleat out. Once we have that done, we can turn it right side out through its opening, press it really well, close the hole that's at the bottom, either using a fusible product, you can whip stitch it closed by hand, or you can just press it and simply wait until you put it on top of your tote bag. And at that time, your top stitching of the patch pocket onto the tote bag is what will hold the hole closed. And that's our pocket.
I love it.
Beautiful.
And I love the little gingham on the top. That's a wonderful trick.
It is. It's just a cute little piece there, and it matches the inside, and you can put all your lining and everything together just like that. Now I have a couple of other pieces here that we can show as well. This little bag here is a bag from one of our licensing programs, and this one uses the same chain stitching but with a little bit heavier cord and only in straight lines instead of in a grid pattern. Then we also have, in the same idea, we have a little flap on a purse where it's got the same little stitching in there, and that's even a little bit heavier cord in that one. If you want to use just plain old regular serger thread, you can also do that. And this little pillow that we have here has one section of it where we've also done the chain stitch quilting, but this was done just with regular serger thread. So all you have to do is vary your pattern and vary your threads, and you can get all sorts of great looks from your chain stitch quilting.
Oh, Alicia, that is so exciting. Thank you so much.
You are
and
so
now
welcome.
Alicia has some sewing inspirations to share with you. Oh, I love this. Tell us about it, Alicia.
This is just a laptop cover. It's just a piece that folds inside, but the flap is where we have all the fun. So on this flap, we used a flat lock, and we weaved some embroidery floss through that, and also left some just plain.
And another wonderful variation of this wonderful laptop cover.
Same thing. Only this time, instead of using the embroidery floss, we just wove ribbon through. It takes a fraction of the time as the other one.
Oh, and here?
Matching book covers. In this case, we've taken and stacked and whacked pieces, and then we've edged them with thread. And then on the inside, we have these little thread tassels. And these were made out of the same thread that we did the direct decoration on the outside of them.
Serger tassels.
Serger tassels.
And then the little wine bottle covers.
So continuing on the thread theme, we did the serger crochet just along the edge of them. So you just make the bottle cover and then you put the edge on after you're all done. You could even add that to a ready-made if you wanted to.
Absolutely.
Just make it real quick.
And this glorious quilt. Tell us about it. Oh my. Let's kind of start up here and tell us a bit about those stitches.
The very first one, this is mostly cover stitches from both sides, the front and the back, that are just woven back and forth to make kind of a plaid pattern.
And then
we have Crazy Patch that's been covered, where we've covered all of our raw edges with our stitches. And this one is shadow work. This is actually a piece of organza that has another piece of fabric behind it to make the shadow work pop.
Shadow work.
It does. It does.
All by serger.
Beautiful. All by serger.
This is so pretty. Oh,
Thank
Alicia,
you.
Thank you so much. And now Alicia has a so quick, so easy idea or two for you. Can't wait to see your magic.
Yeah, this is wonderful. We're actually going to put a zipper in with our serger.
Yay.
And we're going to make a zipper that actually has a flap over the top of the zipper that's hiding the zipper from view. So most zippers that we've done on our sergers so far have been exposed zippers. And what we're going to make today is just this cute little bag. Now what we're going to start with is a couple of pieces of fabric. You can change the dimensions of the bag however you want to. We're going to have our main fabric and our lining fabric. We're also going to have a small strip that's about 2 inches wide here that has been folded in half so that it's 1 inch wide. And the most important part of this is we have our zipper. Now the zippers need to be at least 4 inches larger than the piece that we're going to attach it to, because they have these metal stops and starts on them. And those metal stops and starts have no way to navigate underneath the serger foot. Now we're going to use a piping foot on our serger. The piping foot has a groove in the bottom of it, which will track our zipper. So we're going to put that onto our serger. There we go. And we're going to take our pieces. Now, we have taken the little strip that was 2 inches. We have put all 3 raw edges together along one edge of this, and we have glued them together using a wash-away basting tape. We're going to take our zipper, though, and attach it to the other side first. We're not going to open the zipper. We're simply going to put it up under the foot with the teeth of the zipper in the groove and the pull of the zipper in the back. And then we're just going to keep those teeth in that groove as we serge it together. Once we get that piece serged, we've got half of our zipper in. Then we are going to take that piece here that's already been sewn, and we're going to take the other end up and match it to the other side of our zipper. Now we're right side of zipper to the little piece, 2-inch piece that we put in here. We're going to take this piece, ensuring that both of these sides are equal. We're going to take this one up to our serger, and this time we're going to serge from the other end. So this time the stopper is going behind the foot. Once we have that up in there, we're going to go ahead and go, making sure to keep the teeth in the groove of the foot. And then we have our zipper, you can see, on the inside, and that zipper has the flap that's covering it. Then we're going to take and just simply offset that zipper to one side slightly, making sure that that the flap that we created is covering the zipper the right direction. We don't want to have a zipper with a decorative band above it. Then we're going to just flatten that out, serge both sides, and then when we turn it right side out, we wind up with this cute little bag. And you just put in a little pull for the zipper. And if you have more time, you can add a little bit of decoration and heirloom work to the pieces of fabric before you sew them together.
How much fun. Oh my goodness, what a nice trick.
Yeah, and it takes no time at all to make these.
I like that too. Alicia, thank you so much.
You are so welcome.
And now we have some designer techniques to share with you. So happy to have with me Kathy Barnard. Kathy is editor of So Beautiful magazine. Kathy, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Martha.
Kathy, you and I have a little story about this
We
beautiful
do.
dress. I remember it just appeared in a box, a gift to me from someone that said their family would not love it. And tell them the rest of the story.
Oh, I'm so glad she did send it to you. Because remember the day I came in your office, I had something to talk about, and as soon as I saw it, I'm like, what is that? That's
Just
the
a
coolest thing.
gift that just
and
came.
I don't even think we ever talked about what I came in for, but the great thing is we did use it in the magazine.
So beautiful.
And the wonderful thing about antiques, and this is how you started your whole business, is how antiques teach us different techniques that we can use on modern clothing. And what impressed me about this dress is right where you are right now.
I know.
This beautiful ribbon lattice trim in between this deep galloon type lace. And
this lattice is so
right.
interesting.
And while this dress is very, black and the great story about this is the woman had this dress custom made in Paris for a ball at the Cheekwood Mansion, the Maxwell House. So she was a woman of some prominent social stature. But couldn't you see this beautiful dress, this treatment in white on the bottom of a wedding gown? Or just a cute little A-line dress with a really fancy trim at the bottom and a cashmere sweater? I mean, because skirts are really fancy these days. So I'm going to show you how you can do this technique to do this wonderful ribbon lattice filler, and you can do what you want to with it.
And this dress that went to the ball at the Maxwell House, I think it was early 1900s.
Early 1900s
in
Nashville. And the dress was made in Paris, which makes it all the more couture. But you can do this on the bottom of a camisole, on a blouse, but I think I would love to see it on the bottom of a skirt. So let's get to the boards and we'll talk about how to do this. To start with, I'm going to show you, this is where we're going to end up so you get an idea of what our goal is. I've used a cotton lace here with a very deep edging, and I've used a rayon lace here and it creates a smaller window. So, you can be a little selective as long as you get a nice size window in which to put your ribbon. Now, the most important thing that you must remember while working on this is that you wash your netting, because Martha, we know that netting shrinks about 30 to 40%.
It does.
And
the cotton netting.
The cotton netting. Now, if you wanted to use like a synthetic netting, that would be fine too. But you don't want that shrinking afterwards because you'll get a lot of pucker. Now, first of all, you're going to start off with some tearaway. This is a stitch and ditch stabilizer, or you can use a wash away or an iron away. However you want to do it, you're going to need to be able to draw on it and then tear it away and remove it at the end. And what I did was I just lined my laces up and I loosely drew the window out. I drew the first window and then measured it and created all the other windows after. And they were each about 4 1/4 inches apart. So I drew a line, marked the separations, and then drew the windows in. Now this second line, you don't have to draw that. That's my stitching line. But I did it to demonstrate it for you on television. Also, you don't want to use a permanent marker like I'm doing, but it showed up better than a water-soluble pen. But you want to use a water-soluble pen here so that when you're finished, it doesn't mar up your laces. So let's remove that. And the next step, of course, is you want to lay down a strip of netting, and I just used a temporary spray adhesive. These are great. You just spray onto the stabilizer, and then you smooth your netting down, and this will dissipate over a couple of days. You don't have to wash it out. Then you're going to want to cut all your little lace strips, enough to fill that window generously, and you'll spray this section with temporary spray adhesive, and you'll just put your ribbons down. It'll stick right to it, and as you weave them, you can move them and shape them and pick them up. Then you'll go to the next one and you'll spray this one, you'll lay these ribbons down, then spray this one and put these ribbons down. You don't want to spray the whole thing all at once, just work it one section at a time. The next step is to lay your lace on top, and as you'll see in this window, I put a lot of ribbons, a tight ribbon weave and a loose ribbon weave in this window just to show you. Then you'll put some temporary spray adhesive down, and then adhere this down over the top of it, and then zigzag with like a 1.5 to 2.0 zigzag stitch. I've done it in red stitching here so you can see it, but if you use an 80 weight thread, as you can see, I did the same exact stitch here and you cannot see it at all. Once you're finished with that, you will simply turn it onto the back side. Let me get this open for you. And cut away all of this. You'll first remove your stabilizer, your paper stabilizer, and then you'll cut away close to the stitching on the back side. The easiest way to do this, to keep from snagging the lace, is to cut into the point to create triangles and move these triangles back, and then to cut these off. If you try to keep going in here, you'll end up possibly snagging your lace, but it does make a beautiful edging or an insertion for all kinds of fashions.
Absolutely beautiful. And I want to thank my friend who sent me this wonderful, wonderful present, a family treasure.
Yes.
Because we have certainly been able to share it with the world, haven't we, Kathy?
We have honored it in the magazine. Yes, we have.
And now we have some beautiful hand embroidery for you. I am so happy to have as my guest today my very dear friend, Gloria McKinnon from Australia. She is an internationally known teacher, author of 16 books, for 18 years the presenter of a weekly needlework segment on the Today Show in Australia. She's edited many quilting and embroidery magazines, and she's a contributor to So Beautiful magazine. Gloria, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Martha, and thank you for inviting me. Today I would like to explore buttonhole stitch. Sometimes we think of that as an applique stitch also, it's very similar. And I think it's a stitch that most of us have grown up with, so we're quite familiar with it. And I just want to share some varieties that we can do with it. So you can see them on the block that you're showing there. But if we look at this, at my work sheet here, where I've just got a normal buttonhole stitch, and then all I've done here is just change it by going short, long, short, long. And then this one is sort of a irregular one. You can go, I like this, you can just go anywhere with that, and that works. And then these, and I'm probably out there are the buttonhole police that will tell me that there's a proper name for this, and I can't think what it is, but it's just a triangular one, and then we have a triple one there. And then I've used some French knots, but you could also use beads on there. And then this one works where we just draw a circle. So let me sort of get started where we show you, just the basic buttonhole stitch. So obviously we're going to come into our fabric here, and then we just go along. And of course what we do try and do is to have each of the stitches the same distance apart, and we try to have them the same height. when we're doing this one, because you know we are wanting this one to look neat. Now another tip I think too, even if you do quite large stitches, that's fine, just make them all large. You know, the problem is when you do large and small, well, I suppose that isn't a problem on that second one I'm going to show you. When we go down to this one here, we're doing large, small. I probably was trying to say that you need to have some rhythm with buttonhole stitch. So if we come down to this one here where we've got the large one has just been done there, then we're going to do the small one, and then my next one is going to be large. And so if I can just show that one there that we're doing. But the one that, and so this next row, we don't really need to go over that one again, because that's just placing them wherever you would like, all over the place. But this one I think is one that we do need to share. So I'm going to come up here, this triangular one that's left me for the time being that we can't exactly give it a name. We're going to go from there to there in one movement, and then this is a shared needle hole. I'm now going to go from there back across to this side. So I'm in that same needle hole, and then that gives it to me there. Now I'm going to go on to the next one and across to there and then across. Now let's say I want to do this one that's underneath, which has the 3 spokes. Well, then I'm going back into that same hole. It's a shared needle hole again, but this time I'm going to go straight up and down. And then I'm going to go out to that angle. And if you're wondering why I didn't stay on the line, I also am wondering why I didn't stay on the line, because that's why I've got a line there for us to stay on. So let's not look at that one. Let's come down to this one here. So what I did was to take that stitch and then the center one and then the one on the side there. And then with this one here, I just drew a circle. Drew the circle around on there, and then I started that one on the outside from there. And then when you look at this one, it's one of those things that you can leave like a wagon wheel, and that's as I've got it there. But you could also then put some stamens into the center of that, and it would become a flower, not unlike a morning glory. We could call that a flower. And then if I can just show you here again, we're using the same one, but we're using it in a scallop, you know, so that it goes on the line as a scallop, and then I would do another scallop coming along that edge there. And I think that one of the things with this one, if you change the colour and you change the placement, you know, put them closer together, then you get a quite different looking flower with those. And so it's just one of those really simple stitches for us to learn and practice.
Is this one that is used a lot in Crazy Patch?
Yes, it is. Probably not as much as, I mean, feather stitch is the most popular of them all to use, but certainly we use a lot of it.
Well, this quilt is truly beautiful, and thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you again, Martha.
And now I'd like to share a piece from my vintage collection with you. This beautiful blouse has so much handwork. The collar, and by the way, aren't we glad we don't wear collars like this today? I think I would choke. But look at the beautiful bias tubing. And we actually call this spaghetti bias now because, and that's kind of a funny name. I don't think this lady would have called it spaghetti bias. It's all joined together with handwork. And then beautiful, beautiful tucks. And this sleeve has the tucks and more tucks. Let me show you the tucks that come down the sleeve. The fullness is gathered in. So these sleeves were really tall and puffy, I'm sure. And this is actually called chemical lace. All right, the tucks come down the front with the lace. Beautiful, beautiful treatment on the front. Let's turn it around to the back and let you see that her handwork and her bias tubes, of course, went all the way around, and the back is open. It's actually hidden, and it's very unusual to have the original buttons when I buy a garment, but these were those original buttons. Very unusual, cannot be bought today, but they're all hidden, and then the beautiful tucks that go all the way down the back of the blouse. If I had to tell you one technique that I've seen on more of my vintage clothes than anything else, it would probably be tucks. I think tucks are just as beloved today as they were 100 years ago, at least from my ladies that love to sew. Thank you so much for joining me in my sewing room today. I would like to very much invite you to come back next time.